All right, welcome to the second part of the fourth team. Today we will talk about how, and we have already discussed this issue a little bit, but we will continue on to talk about it. And as you remember, how is the fourth question of 5, and we have already covered what, why, where, and we have still then the next topic left to cover after this one. And today we will talk about joint ventures and direct investments. Last time we covered the part of about exporting. So today's topic is about joint venturing at first. You can briefly say that by joint ventures, it means that a company is joining with a foreign company to produce or market products or services. It doesn't have to be a foreign company, but of course, since this is a course about starting up foreign trade, we're always talking about a national company and a company that is situated in another country as well. We know that there are many different kinds of joint ventures, and these are the most common ones. Licensing as well as franchising, contract manufacturing, management contracting, and then also joint ownership. And we also know that the definitions of each one of these can be different by different authors. And perhaps someone talks about franchising when they think about contract manufacturing. And joint ownership can then be also called just joint ventures and all these things. Now we will talk about the reasons a little bit why companies use joint ventures. And one of the biggest reasons is that sometimes there might be a rule against 100% of foreign ownership of companies in some countries. And if you then would like to start your own company in a country that has a rule like this, you cannot do it on your own. You have to find a local partner. But also, if there isn't such a rule that you're allowed to start your own company in a foreign country, then this can be a good start in the beginning of the internationalization process, that you join together with another company that perhaps has the knowledge that you don't have. Joint venture gives you the benefits of local expertise and local resources, and the exporting company has more control than if they would have resellers only. And this gives you great opportunities, but there are also then some parts that might be a little bit more tricky than others. And through research we have found out that the biggest reason why joint ventures are not working is because of the difficulties of different cultures, different working cultures or different cultures. So these things you have to take into consideration when you are considering having a joint venture. Let's continue to talk about licensing then. Licensing is a simple way for a company to enter into international market. There are two parties, the licensor and the licensee. The company, that's the licensor, makes an agreement with another company, the licensee, on a foreign market. The licensee buys the right to use the company's manufacturing process, for example, or the trademark, patent, or a trade secret, or then other item of value, and they give a fee or a royalty to the licensor. The licensor gains entry into the market at little risk, and the licensee gains knowledge. That's the benefits, and benefits are for both of the parties then. Then we have the disadvantage, and this may be that the licensor, the company, has less control over the production and may also lose out on some profit. The licensee might also become a potential competitor in the future when they have learned about how to do business the way that the licensor have provided them with. I think that you all know about common companies that are selling their products through licenses all over the world. I think that Coca-Cola is probably the most common company that is doing it this way. Try to check out who is the license holder in your company, in your country, for Coca-Cola's products. Let's continue to talk about franchising. And franchising is a kind of licensing. It can be said that it's a more advanced and a stricter form of licensing. Here, the franchisor provides much support and has a ready concept that the franchisee must follow in the franchise company. This is the regular form, the business format franchising, where you get everything. And you also get support when you are choosing the where you should put up your company, and support throughout the whole process. And I also think that you know about a lot of examples on these types of franchising companies. We know that this can be done international, across borders, but it can also then be a completely national thing. If you're interested to find out more about franchising, there's plenty of good web pages. For example, you can check out International Franchise Association on franchise.org, or then local pages for your own home country. The word franchising actually comes from the Latin word franco, and it means the right to do something. Next, we will talk about contract manufacturing. And here the company make a contract with manufacturers in foreign markets to produce its product or provide its services. The drawbacks might be loss of control over the manufacturing process or loss of potential profit on manufacturing. Benefits are the chance of starting faster with less risk, and the later opportunity either to form a partnership with or to buy out the local manufacturer. So there are both drawbacks and benefits as with any other form. If we look at a definition that is from the Business Dictionary, it says that it is production of goods by one firm under the label or brand of another firm. And contract manufacturers provide such service to several and even competing firms based on their own or the customer's design, formulas, and or specification. And this is also called private label manufacturing. And then I think that you all know a lot of examples from your own home countries about this. Here in Finland, we could have a general example from the retail business. For example, Kesko and the S Group, and with their own products. They might be done in the same factories, somewhere in Finland or abroad, but then sold under the group's own name. So this is called contract manufacturing. Next, we will talk about management contracting. And here the domestic firm supplies management know-how to a foreign company that supplies the capital. You could say that the domestic firm exports management services rather than products. Management contracting is a low-risk method of getting into a foreign market, and it yields an income from the beginning. With a lot of the other forms, you have to wait a while before you get your income. It's seen as an investment, and you know that investments sometimes takes time before they can deliver some money for you. The contracting firm may have an option to buy some share in the managed firm later as well. There is no need of using management contracting if the company can make greater profits by undertaking the whole venture. Then they should go and do it on their own. And we also know that management contracting often is used as part of a larger package, and often in startup companies, for example, turnkey projects where companies deliver large solutions to governments in different countries and so on. I know that a lot of companies within the hotel business, for example, might use also management contracting. Then let's continue on to joint ownership. This could actually also be under direct investment, but since it's joint, I prefer to have it under joint ventures. We know that joint ownership ventures consist of one company joining forces with foreign investors to create a local business in which they share joint ownership and control. And this may be needed for economic or political reasons. Let's take a look at some different ownership alternatives. If it's just one company that owns something abroad, it's called a solo venture, and this is the next form that we will continue to talk about, the direct investments. But if it's a company that has a company together with some other company, then it's a joint or a mixed venture. And it can either be a joint or a mixed venture, and the difference is depending on the ownership. So if you have a venture together with an organization, a government, for example, then it's always a mixed venture. Joint venture is it when you have two commercial companies that are joining forces. And then you can talk about different types of joint or mixed venture depending on how much each party owns. So this is the different alternatives then. The next thing is direct investments. And here the company actually go abroad on their own. And this is the biggest involvement a company can make in a foreign market. There are usually two different types, acquisition and greenfield, and we will discuss more about these later. It could, for example, be a foreign-based assembly or a manufacturing facility. These are the typical direct investments that companies make. If you make a direct investment, you have a lot of advantages. And one of the bigger advantages is that you might be able to lower your costs. You might be able to have cheaper labor or cheaper raw materials. Also, the transportation costs might be lower. Incentives from government might be offered if you start up your own company in such an area that the government would like you to start it up in. And as I said already, freight savings to the production process, but also then to customers when you ship out your ready-made products. Another advantage might be that your company might improve the image of it in the foreign country. Everyone likes when new companies come in and start up their business because it might create job opportunities. But also by being situated in the foreign country, you have the ability to have better knowledge of the customers, and in this sense you may adapt the products that to be more suitable for your customers. The third advantage is that you actually have full control over the investment and you have full control over the business. And you can develop manufacturing and you can develop marketing plans, and you can do this taking a long-term mind, a long-term focus. If you look at the definition on direct investment by the International Monetary Fund, they say that this is an investment that is made to acquire a lasting interest in an enterprise operating in an economy other than that of the investor. And the investor's purpose being to have an effective voice in the management of the enterprise. So you see all the benefits that we just discussed. I especially like the lasting interest, the long-term view here, because that is why you do it. Then we will turn to the two different types, the greenfield versus the acquisition type. And we will start to discuss acquisition. Acquisition is when you buy an existing company. And this is what you usually start to look at. If you are interested to do a direct investment in a new country, you start to look at, are there existing companies, existing factories for sale, or something that you can try to get. There are some benefits by buying something that is already up and running. Of course, the benefit of speed, because it takes a lot longer to build a company from scratch. You already might have the personnel ready. This can, of course, be both an advantage as well as a slight disadvantage, but usually I would say that it's a really good advantage. You have personnel that knows the production process, but also then has the local knowledge that you might not have. Another advantage is that the distribution channels already exist, and you might have customers already and a market share. Shorter lead time and payback period are also great advantages if you buy a company that is also already existing. Then the other form, the greenfield. Here the company builds up a new company from scratch. And this might sometimes be necessary, and this is sometimes a really good option also for companies. It's necessary if the products need careful adaptation, or when the technology that you need to be able to produce your products is not available in existing companies. And also if the technology is the competitive edge that your company have. And if you cannot keep this competitive edge if you transfer the production to another factory, for example. And also you might have to do a greenfield investment if incentives offered are only valid in a particular geographical area and you cannot find any factories available in that specific area. And the same goes for the location of the raw material. If you need to be close to the raw material or some other production factory and there are no factories at that place. So there are many reasons why you should start to look at why you are doing a greenfield investment. But as I said in the beginning, companies usually start out by checking the existing options. And if they then notice that these are not enough or not good enough for them, well then they start to think about the second option of creating something from scratch. So these are the two different types of direct investments, and try to check out the news. Then you see always, usually you find some companies that are doing this. There are usually notices in the newspaper if companies have invested in a foreign country. This is actually all the different methods that we will cover in the how section, and as you see there are a lot of different options, a lot of different things that the company should take into account when they think about how they should enter a foreign market. They should think about what is best for them and also what is best for the customers. You should also notice that these things might change, and if you start out with one of the methods, this might not be the method that you keep using for the rest of the time that you are in this certain country. So usually you start up from the forms that are not that demanding, and then when you notice that you really have customers that are buying your products, then you can go on to the more demanding forms as well. And companies can have different forms in different countries as well, or even have some other, for different products, different forms in the same country. So there are a lot of options, a lot of good opportunities.